Welcome to the Top 10 Gardener with Master Gardener Ken Lain. Gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and top 10 advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome your garden host, Ken Lain.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lain, here every week talking about the landscapes of Northern Arizona. And Northern Arizona has the rainy season hit. So I've measured over, 2 inches of rain this week at our house. And boy, do the gardens just grow. I mean, the tomatillos went from they were growing to, oh my gosh, they doubled in size. Like this week, it was amazing the difference. And it's not just the rain, it's the humidity, it's the shade that the clouds provide. It's just a lot going on where plants just go crazy. That's why I say the monsoon season for the mountains, the higher elevations of Arizona is, or where you see summer rain, is a second growing season. It's almost easier to start things now than they are in the spring. In the spring, the soil's cold. The evenings are frosty. The humidity, the dryness, we've gone from 10%, 8%. I don't think we can measure the humidity to we're in the mid 40s, 50s. This is like glorious. I mean, to have that much humidity, plants actually absorb moisture through their foliage, through the atmosphere. That's what orchids and bromeliads, these plants that hang out, air plants. You don't really water them. You kind of moisten them. They actually pull most of their moisture out of the atmosphere. All plants do this, but they just double down now. So you've got roots for this beautiful ash tree, these aspens, the shade trees like the Prescott Blaze maple. They've got their root structure, but now they've got the foliage can actually absorb too. So they're not working as hard. They can focus their energy on growing new foliage, making new flowers. And so I kind of saw the monsoons coming. You know they're going to hit. They always hit the end of June, first part of July. Always. You can count on it. We never know how much rain we're going to get. I would not expect the last week of June we get over 2 inches in my own personal gardens. I'm about 2 miles away from the garden center here, so it's right here. And so I know the weatherman says we're expecting 20% chance of rain. What that really means is that 20% of us are going to get 2 inches of rain. Your neighbors right across the way get none. And so this cloud kind of floats across the valleys and up and down the hillsides and just dumps its load. In fact, I asked AI, I'm playing with AI. I'm supposed to, I'm a young guy running companies. I am supposed to learn how to do this. I'm going, okay, sounds fun. I'll play with it. I'm a new tech kind of guy. So play with this. I asked Google's Gemini AI, smart computers. I said, Google, or Gemini is what they call it. Gemini, how much rain falls from the average thundercloud? And he said 297,000 gallons from the average rain. That's just shy an acre foot. If you were to take 1 acre and just square it 1 mile, 1 foot high, that's an acre foot. I think it's 350, 360, I don't know, something like that. It's 300 something gallons in an acre foot. I don't know exact, don't quote me on this, but I went, dang, that's darn close to an acre foot of rain dumping all over the city as it rolls around the city. So it's kind of exciting. So you're going to see our lakes fill up. You're seeing our streams will start to run again, which is good. We went from bone dry soil. I was planting quite a bit right before the monsoons hit. And the ground was very like dusty dry. So you had to hydrate the planting hole. You're not just watering the plant, you're watering the soil around the plant, so it doesn't just wick away the water from that new planting you put in. Well, now I'm starting to see the ground saturate again. This is magical time to plant. This is probably the easiest, best time to plant. Trees, shrubs, a new spruce tree. It's got that new growth. But now you put it in the ground with that moisture, the warmth. It's just gonna solidify and sit there majestically in your yard and do well. And so it's just easier to plant now. Before that, I mean, spring's the most popular time. I would say it may not be the best time for a lot of things. It's the only time you can find peonies. It's the only time you'll really find a big selection of lilacs and forsythia, but it's not the best time. The best time is now because of the humidity, the moisture, the pressure's off. Things grow instantaneously. They just grow so fast. And so it's just easier, I think. I know for you folks in the Midwest, it's, oh, autumn is for planting. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, it is for big things, big trees, big shrubs, that kind of stuff. But I think now in the mountains, in the West, where we get this monsoon pattern, we shift that thinking like the Midwest, autumn is your best. Now is the best because they root so fast. And so you get a whole nother root mass. I mean, you're just, that root ball that you put in the ground will just quadruple in size now through the end of the year because it's actively growing so fast. And you're seeing this on your plants. This is why I've cut back a lot of my flowers, especially perennials. So the Jupiter's beard, the autumn sage, they've been blooming like crazy. I kind of topped them, gave them some I'll mention fertilizers later, gave them some flower power, and they're already starting to set buds. That was just like 10 days ago. So already they're setting flowers because they're growing in this humidity. The rains help them. Lightning storms. Lightning actually rumbles through the sky and burns the air and creates more nitrogen. So you'll get it actually charges the water with nitrogen. So it actually fertilizes while it's raining. This makes plants grow fast. And so there's a lot of benefits right now. So if you're new to the area, new to gardening here in this high altitude of the mountains of Arizona, those are going to be some of the differences. Also, in June, you're watering like crazy. It's all you're doing in June, keep things alive. They're going to get stressed. They're going to get hot. They're just going to. And so just keep them alive. June is kind of one of the hardest months to grow things. June, here, it's unique because it's so dry and there's a prevailing wind. It's hot. And then the monsoons come and all the pressure's off. Because of that humidity, the cloud cover alone, you see a cloud floating over the plants. You can see the plants kind of go, shade, humidity. This feels good. And so if you cut back or pinch the old spent flowers back on your perennials, clean up your annuals, and then fertilize them again, they will instantly start flowering again. They'll go right back into a whole nother flush, almost a larger flush of flowers. Roses, same way. Deadhead those roses, take the dead spent flowers off. They'll go right back into bloom with bigger blooms than they had before. And so it's a kind of a unique opportunity. If you've got a new landscape, I would say one thing you can do that really makes a difference for brand new, or you just want you've got a new privacy screen. You want that neighbor to disappear faster behind that hedgerow of Arizona cypress or pine trees or spruce. One thing you can do right now, using the rain to your advantage, is give those plants humic, Humic, humic. It's humic acid. It comes in a bag. We've got it at the garden center. It's called humic. It's an organic product. What humic does, it interacts with the soil and fertilizes the roots. It actually, the soil around that plant, it activates the soil. It actually attracts worms. It brings in all the activity where plants kind of go, whoa, this ground's alive. My goodness, this looks like a good place to grow. I think I'll root out more. Any plant that has been stressed, had some leaf tatter, had some mildew, some leaf spot, bugs, whatever, any kind of stress, humic helps that plant to root out and get a stronger root structure. Plants that got aggressive, large roots that are well established are very robust. It's kind of like people, big, strong, healthy people get a cold and they kind of go, okay, I'm recovered. In 3 days, they just come back at it and go stronger than ever. Those that are weakened or are struggling already, they get a cold and all of a sudden it takes them 2 months to get over it. Plants are very much similar to that in that they need their roots to become stronger like that. So humic, it's a granular you sprinkle around the over the rock, around the roots. You pray for rain, and boom, you'll have more active soil where the plants root out and become less stressed in your life. So we got Lisa Lain coming in with your garden questions right after this.
Plants are a lot like puppies. They need care, water, and food.
You wouldn't forget to feed your puppies, so don't forget to feed your plants.
Water's 744 all-purpose plant food is a gourmet meal for your plants.
The only food for Arizona plants with the nutrients they need for big blooms, a hefty harvest, and tremendous trees, all naturally.
It's time to feed your plants with 744 all-purpose plant food from Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
You're listening to Garden Master Ken Lain, owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join his daily podcast for timely garden advice seasonally right for the gardens. Ken can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott or through his website at top10gardener.com. You're listening to Garden Master Ken Lain and the Top 10 Gardener podcast. Welcome to the Top 10 Garden Show.
And we are back with Lisa Lain in the studio. She comes each week with your garden questions. Just what are your neighbors? What are other gardeners talking about? What are their questions? We can learn from them. And so we just share those over the airwaves. Lisa, welcome back to the Mountain Gardener Radio Show.
Thank you.
Yeah. You got a glow about you. Looks like you had some tanning, some beach time.
We were a few days up at the lake, and definitely you get a lot of beach sun time up there.
It's kind of nice. The water's rising.
Yes.
We were seeing water rise on Lake Powell 2 feet a day. I mean, close to it. I mean, it was like, whoa, where did that beach go? It just disappeared. The negative, the water's rising. There's no beaches because they're all tumbleweed covered. They haven't seen water in a while. So you got to kind of search.
Wear your shoes.
Yeah, wear your shoes. You get pokey. Have your dogs wear their shoes. It was kind of nice. So the water's definitely going up in the west. It's encouraging. Definitely. We actually had the cut. You folks that know Lake Powell, there's a shortcut between Wawheat Bay and Warm Creek, the next bay over. And when it's open, you can take a shortcut right up the river and go right up the lake. Real easy. If it's closed, it's been closed for a couple of years, you have to go around to the dam, hook a left through this terrifying.
It's brutal.
It's like really boats are choppy. Then you go through Antelope Marina, which is like mega yachts, like the really big boys. It's like terrifying every time you get near one. Then finally, like 10 miles later, you get to go where that shortcuts to. Well, it's open. Opened up last week.
Nice.
It's kind of very nice.
It's pretty shallow.
It's okay. Take it slow. We were seeing even Malibu boats, the surf boats, they were going through. So, be careful. Don't want to lose a prop. But anyway, what garden questions do we have from folks?
Well, sure. We've definitely hit summer now. And so most of our questions kind of relate to things that occur in the summertime. So Robert was noticing that his maple tree was really nice and green and beautiful. And it's kind of lost a little bit of its color. He's concerned it's yellowing out a little bit. So his basic question is that just the weather? Does it need iron? Is it something to worry about?
Robert, you should be worried. Yes, it's a problem. Your plants should not be yellow. They should be rich, thick, deep green, like forest green. If they aren't doing that, they're talking to you. So your maple is complaining. It's anemic. It's having issues. And it's letting you know, and you noticed it. So your gardener, you kind of went, oh, that's not quite right. I don't remember that. So it's starting to yellow. What's happened is, and this is any plant, not just trees, not just maples, not just plants that are off colored. What's happened is you've been watering them a lot to get them through June. Normal. We all do this. But if you didn't fertilize well enough or you use the wrong plant food earlier in the season, spring, you've flushed out all those nutrients and the pH level has started to creep up. And so your soil is starting to take on the pH of your water. And the pH of your water, whether it's a well or a city, we're all dealing with groundwater, is going to be in the high 7s. The perfect pH, according to the book,
unless you're
is like 6.5 is the neutral. I've never seen that. I've done hundreds of soil tests, never seen that. I've seen out of my personal wells, 9.4, as high as that. That's sterile. That's like ammonia. It's just the pH is so high, it's sterilizing the soil. So plants go yellow when you see that. And so, give it iron. yeah, give it some nutrients, but really what you're after, you got to lower the pH. You do that, and you're good to go. I would recommend for you, Robert, specifically for this instant, you're seeing yellow leaves, yellow just seems it's not as rich, thick green. I would give it the 744 all-purpose plant food. We put sulfur in that food because we know you're going to be struggling with keeping the pH down. We just know the water. We're trying to compensate for that. But for you specifically, I would also, in addition, I would supplement that food with some additional sulfur. I'd get a little bag of soil sulfur. It looks like a little pelletized sulfur, and just it'll kind of double down on lowering that pH, and you'll see that thing grain up. I mean, we're within a week, rich green. All the new foliage will come out green. The foliage will be bigger. The shade from that tree will be better, and so I'd fertilize it with the 7-4 all-purpose food and give it sulfur at the same time. There you go. Robert, yes, be worried. If you don't do anything, it will lose leaves, start to shed, be thin, be wispy, and you will not get any fall color. Right. It'll just be lost. Anyway.
Okay, so take care of it.
Take care of your plants.
Yes. All right. Joe has a question about tomatoes. Said they're nice and healthy looking, but they really aren't putting on many blooms. Is it too early yet? Will they start to bloom? What do you do?
And who is that? Where is he from?
Joe.
Joe, tomatoes should be setting fruit right now, and they should definitely be blooming. So what to do? Now, what happens now? Tomatoes, they don't like it to be in that 95, that high. Once you get in the 90s, the mid 90s, they stop blooming. So it could be just simply it got hot, take a little break. And so now you'll simply, the rains have come, so they'll start to grow faster. And so it's taking the pressure off. And so the plants will probably start blooming a little better anyway by itself. But why wait for it to do it by itself? We're gardeners. We can force plants to do what we want. And so get some Blossom Set. Come into the garden center. Blossom Set's in a liquid. It's in a trigger sprayer. You just go through and just mist your foliage. Make them happy. Go in the morning. Just kind of mist them, maybe once a week. Give them a good drink on their foliage. Don't focus on the flowers. Focus on the foliage. And so that will force your plants to start setting more flowers. You get more flowers naturally, you're going to get fruit set. So it's a game changer. Once those tomatoes start to set fruit, throttle back and go every other week. And that should be enough to keep them going. Actually, ours are starting to fruit, and now I'm switching it up. Of 1 week I hit it with Blossom Set, and I'll do this through the end of the year or the growing season. And then the next week I hit it with Yield Booster. Yield Booster is liquid calcium. And so every week I just go out in the morning, I just spritz my plants and make them happy. It makes me feel good to make them happy. And then they're starting to set fruit. I would do that for your tomatoes, your peppers. I actually do it for my plants, my vegetable gardens. It'll make more eggplants come out. It'll make your cucumbers better. It just makes them happier. And so it makes them forces them to have more tomatoes. Yeah. Come talk to us. We can show you what to do.
So the Yield Booster, the calcium. So that's for blossom end rot.
Correct.
That's more of that black that forms on the.
Or just bigger fruits. You'll get larger, juicier, better flavor. Calcium does a lot. But you're mainly doing it for blossom end rot because it's so prevalent here. Again, that's a pH thing that's happening. So if you overwater, the pH gets too high, it'll get blossom end rot. So Yield Booster helps with that a lot. And it just increases the size of your fruits. It's a game changer all the way around.
Okay. Well, our next question is from Maya. She is wanting a screen tree.
Yeah.
But she's just a little overwhelmed.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So she wants to go, what's the hardest? What's the toughest? What's the fastest growing?
Yeah.
What would you put in your yard?
Sure. So Maya, we can help you. So there's like 700 trees here at the garden center. You walk in, you're going, oh my gosh, there's a fruit tree section. There's an evergreen section. There's a privacy screen section. There's a shade. There's a blooming section. Where do I even start? Well, just go with the size you want. So if I want shade, go to the shade section. Sounds like she wanted a privacy. I couldn't quite tell. Privacy screen. Go to the privacy screen section. The number one seller by far, Arizona cypress. Just because it's in Arizona, it's native. It grows up to size fast, one of the fastest growing of your evergreen varieties. They look a little wimpy in the buckets. Maybe they're 8 feet tall by only 4 feet wide, but they're going to turn into a 25 by 12 foot thick, solid barrier. We use it for windbreaks, and for privacy screens. But by no means the only variety. They're basically silver blue.
Mhm.
Sometimes you don't want, you've got too much of that silver color that naturally shows up. You have too many oak trees and things out there. Maybe you want a green. So there's Spartan juniper. Junipers are another golden. You just can't go wrong with junipers. You can't kill them. And so that's another good choice. That's when come in and talk to us. Bring a picture of that space you're trying to block off. We'll walk through with you. We'll handhold you. We'll make sure you don't make a mistake. We'll make sure you plant it right. We've got a planting guide. It shows you exactly how to put it in the ground, how big the hole, how much mulch, how much food, how to stake it. We'll make sure that you're a pro before you even leave, because we want that thing to thrive, not just live, but to thrive, especially for privacy screens. Privacy screens, you want that thing big now. So you're planting it now, good time, rooting it out now, getting it ready, a little bit of growth now, but next spring, it will double in size. Evergreens kind of need to root 1 year and they take off with new growth. Anyway, that is it for this segment. Great question, Maya. Don't be overwhelmed. We're here for you. Ken and Lisa Lain, the Mountain Gardeners. Be right back.
Plant summer shade with the best trees.
We've collected 700 mountain hardy trees for summer-long shade, privacy, and wind protection.
We guarantee you will fall in love with a backyard that is cool again.
Summer rains make this the ideal season to plant new trees for summer-long shade.
And Watters Garden Center can help.
Watters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott.
You're listening to Ken Lain, aka the Top 10 Gardener. Ken can be found throughout the week in Prescott at Watters Family Garden Center. Listen daily as he answers the top 10 questions of the week, streaming on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you download your podcasts. You've tuned in to the Top 10 Gardener with garden expert Ken Lain. Join him daily as he answers timely garden questions that are sure to make a difference in your gardens. Now welcome your host, Ken Lain.
I had mentioned that summer is a good time to plant. The plants are growing better. You can get them to rebloom. It's kind of a second growing season, second planting season for the mountains of Arizona. It's because it's that humidity is quadruples or more, 10 times higher now than it was just 3 weeks ago during June. June is the hottest month to grow things. It's the hardest month to grow things. It's because that prevailing southwest wind with brand new foliage, it's so dry, the ground is just starting to warm up. And so finally, you get plants to limp through June, and then they take off. I mean, your tomatoes will grow double in size by the end of the month, if not more. They'll start setting fruit like crazy because of the rain, just because humidity, cloud cover, the ground all around the plants are now hydrated, not just that little area underneath your drip emitter. It's a game changer. And so what also grows really fast now are weeds. Weeds will this is when horehound, when a goat head, that's the one that's a beautiful ground cover, just looks so pristine. You want it to grow over your entire yard. It's so easy to grow. And then you pull it up, it's got thousands of these little burrs that your dogs walk on. They start limping, whining, going, I'm in pain, help me. It's an annual weed. And so this is when tumbleweeds go crazy. They'll just start quadruple. They'll become the size of VW beetles. I mean, they're huge. This is when they grow. It's because everything grows faster now, including bugs, including mildews, including everything grows faster in the summer. So you want to keep an eye on things. Weeds, don't let them get ahead of you. I know you put fabric down. I know you got some rock on top of that, but weeds can still grow. It reduces the number of weeds, but they can still grow. Here's the thing with weed killers. You're either going to pull them by hand or hoe them by hand. That's fine if they're small, if you can keep up on it. I'm a strong believer in a tank a week keeps the weeds all at bay, even on large properties. So I kind of go through once a week, I spot treat things I see showing up. At the garden center, we've got acres of plants here. Once a week, go out and just spray things. It's my therapy. I like killing weeds. It just makes me feel better. Cleans things up. A weedy yard is kind of an untidy yard. Just I just like it cleaner, neater. I have OCD, what do they call that? Attention deficit disorder, ODD, OC. Anyway, just kidding. Not really. but I do like things clean and orderly. So the way I do that is I go out with a tank of sprayer. I don't want to weed by hand. I don't want to bend over that hard. I've had a couple back surgeries, harder on me. Now, the myth is you get some vinegar, you put it in a weed sprayer, and it kills off weeds. And it does. The stronger the vinegar, the better. If you can add a little oil to it, some dish soap, these are things that help it stick to the plant so it kills even better. Here's the thing with those organic vinegar killer things. So I've got some great organics here. They work well, but they kill only the top growth. They don't take out the roots. So they'll burn off. You'll see really fast weed killing, the top growth. But sometimes a week later, 2 weeks later, they'll come back from the roots right back at you. What just happened? I just sprayed you. What's going on? Here's what's happening for annuals that come back from a seed. They're germinating right now by a seed. These are things with usually one taproot. They got a big foliage to it. So you've got goat head. You pull up this huge foot round weed and it's got one taproot and then all these seeds coming up. And so that's an annual flower. It doesn't come back from the same root. It comes back from a seed. Things like horehound, this is one that comes back. It's a perennial, comes back with it's got a real carrot-like root. You can spray that with vinegar and it'll kill off the top growth, but it will come back with a vengeance right after that. So it depends on what type. Vinegar takes out the annual weeds really well, but if they keep coming back at you, that means that plant was a perennial, came back from the roots. You just burned off the top. That was it. Cleaned it up, and then it came right back. So you're going to keep after it over and over and over. If you're going to take the energy and the time, just kill it. Put a weed killer that's in there that takes out the root as well. This is where Roundup became famous. Yes, Roundup is dangerous. It can cause cancers. We have seen health issues, but it's still sold. Use some serious precaution stuff. Be very careful with the dogs. Don't let them walk out there on wet. You've just sprayed an area. Use some common sense. Don't let it spray on you. If you do, go take a shower immediately. Detox. So you need to use some real serious precautions if you're using Roundup or glyphosates. That's the chemical name. There's some new products out. We sell one. We don't sell Roundup here because I personally don't want to sell you stuff that's going to cause issues or me. And so I sell one that's called Decimate. Decimate is, I think, a better product, and it doesn't have the health issues. It kills the top growth all the way down to the roots, kills off the entire thing. Decimate is by far better. And that's what I use in my own yards around here at the garden center. Decimate's going to not just kill off the top growth of an annual or perennial, like vinegar will, it'll kill the entire root structure. So it takes out the whole thing. Now, with these kinds of products, be careful. Anything you spray will die. Grass, just tumbleweeds. If you spray it, it will die. So be careful. Don't be careful around your rosemaries and things. I like to use a shield sometimes. I'll take a piece of plywood or a piece of cardboard. Real easy. I'll use that as a shield in between what I'm spraying and, let's say, my roses or something. It's a game changer. Really helps. If you need help killing weeds or they get ahead of you, come talk to us. We're weed experts. Be right back after this.
Waters Garden companion plants for July are hibiscus, maple, verbena, and crepe myrtle.
Crepe myrtle flowers are intense watermelon pink, solar reds, and LED whites that cover this heat-loving shrub.
Plant where you enjoy its beautiful multicolored bark and sinuous branches up close.
The flowers show against forest green foliage that turns red and orange in autumn.
Growing to just head height, every yard has room for at least one, and only available for summer planting here at Waters Garden Center in Prescott. You're listening to garden expert Ken Lain, owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Look for more tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts through Ken's website. Additional shows of this podcast, read his weekly garden column, or follow him on Facebook, Instagram at WattersGardenCenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, GardenCenter.com. You've tuned in to the Top 10 Gardener with garden expert Ken Lain. Join him daily as he answers timely garden questions that are sure to make a difference in your gardens. Now welcome your host, Ken Lain.
And we are back with Lisa Lain. She comes each week and just shares her garden tips, tricks, that insider tip that she sees in her gardens, her neighborhood, her just what she sees out there in the garden center. So welcome back to the show, Lisa.
Thank you.
I see a whole bunch of humongous flowers here. Bright colors. We are seeing a lot of perennials showing up now.
Right.
I gather that's the direction you're taking us?
Yes. So we got back from being gone for just about a week or so, and I'm walking out in the nursery yard in the perennial house and just saw a ton of really beautiful perennials that have come in. It's definitely that time when those heat-loving perennials start to show up, and everything kind of takes a breath because we've had the humidity's up a little bit, getting into that monsoon, and everything just looks beautiful.
Yeah, I tell folks June is perennial month because before that, we've got a lot of perennials, but they're basically green blobs in a bucket. And you got to read that tiny little tag to see the inspiration, what it's going to look like, the flower color. And then June hits and they go into bloom by themselves and no read the tags. You could just look and taste and touch and smell and see the flowers. And a lot of these you brought in, looks like those are cutting flowers, all kinds of stuff. So
so I just grabbed a few. I actually had a whole cart, but I could only get like 4 of them in here. So
you make a mess of my studio.
I know, but you'll get over it. So the echinaceas or coneflower right now are just looking fabulous. This is the time when they really come into being. You see lots of blooms on them, lots of buds. They're ready to roll. So this one, I brought a couple in. So this was Sangrita. So
That's
this
crazy.
is kind of an
Oh
orangey red color. Has that really big kind of center. It's more of your traditional cone flower. And just as pretty as can be. It's nice.
This is not your grandparents' purple coneflower. This is way brighter. For those of you watching it on the video piece, the YouTubes and the Apples, Spotify's, the video is worthwhile on this one. It's just spectacular. We're trying to introduce more echinaceas because they're so hardy here. The birds love them. They love the sun, the wind. They're tough. Animals don't eat them. There's just a lot going on.
They have a very sandpapery kind of leaf. So most of the time the critters leave them alone. And then they, like you said, they're always coming up with new varieties. So that's the Sangrita, nice and orange. This one's Fresco Apricot.
Ooh, apricot. You don't see that.
This one actually has the bloom on it is huge. The center part of it, the little cone part of it, is actually a little smaller, but the petals, it almost has like a double petal to it. And it truly is a real pretty, almost like sunset color. Apricot is absolutely gorgeous. And you could put the two together.
I mean, the flowers on both of these are pretty much the size of your hand, not without the fingers, just your palm of your hand is that size. With buds coming up. There's dozens of buds. These are varieties that benefit from when that flower is done.
Pinch it off.
Just pinch off that spent flower and it will automatically set up another flower right after that. So you see waves of flowers coming into the gardens this way.
And these should continue to bloom up until frost. So we've got a lot of season left. They're great in perennial beds, great in containers, takes the full sun.
One's a single flower, one's a double. And they're just, wow, that apricot is really striking.
Pretty? Yeah. So right now we have reds, yellows, pinks, apricots, probably like 5 or 6 different colors out there right at the moment. Like I was saying, great. Love the heat, love the sun. You can put them out in the heat and they're fine with that. You don't have to baby them.
Butterfly magnets.
Yes.
Butterflies love this one.
And actually little birds like it too.
Yeah,
they'll come pick the little seeds out of those. So that's a new one that's in. And then also, so most people have seen delphinium before. Delphinium's kind of a little bit more of a shade plant, sends off a nice spike with lots of flowers up and down the spike. They're usually blue, dark blue, white. Well, now they've got a new one. And this one they call it red lark delphinium.
Red lark, interesting, but it's not red.
It's kind of
salmon
pink.
Salmon. It does have red. The tinges of the petals are red,
but it's definitely not blue.
No,
it's just so pretty. It has a very different color. You usually don't see delphinium in this color. Great for those shadier spots out in your yard or containers. Looks really pretty. I love the different colors on
camera. The tag, this is a Monrovia tag. How much is that thing? So it's
probably $22.
So the tag This thing's standing 3 feet tall. Oops, I just bent the top. And the tag actually looks like the flower. It looks pretty cool. But again, so much easier to see the flower, touch the flower. Does it smell good? No smell.
No smell.
So
we've also, along with other shade plants, we have bleeding heart which is kind of that old fashioned. It's a nice green ferny looking plant that puts off a pink flower to it that kind of dangles down below, kind of heart shaped, hence the name bleeding heart. Really pretty. Finally able to get those in. We have some gray sword lithidora, which is another really good little ground cover shade perennial. It has one of the bluest flowers to it, and it's hard to find a true blue in flowers. They're usually purple or a little off, but the gray sword is just
striking blue. I mean, even in the shaded areas, amazingly strikingly blue, like the bluest you can think of. Like, anyway, everything else is shadowed blue. This is true, like heavenly blue.
It is very, very pretty. So we've got some nice hostas in for those shade areas. For the sunny areas, daylilies are really big right now. Daylilies are coming into this is their season. They absolutely love the heat of the summer and all that. So a lot of different colors, more than just the yellow. Everybody's used to seeing the yellow.
Stella Dior. I sold one more of those. It's the most introduced daylilies to the market 50 years ago. There's so many cool choices now.
There's some beautiful kind of burgundy ones out there that have a variegated yellow around the edge of them. So nice ones to put in. They're again heat loving, give them full sun. So I'd say whether you have shade or whether you have heat, we have a plant. We have agastache. That's the other one I meant to mention, agastache or hyssop. Very animal resistant plant, but the hummingbirds love this plant almost as much as they love the salvia greggii. But we all have salvia greggii in our yard, right? Which we still have a nice selection of, but it's nice to put something different in. And the agastache, we have probably an orange and kind of a pinkish color. We have that in 3 or 4 colors as well.
Similar to Russian sage. But
not aggressive,
not messy, not aggressive, not weedy. Doesn't come up everywhere. Doesn't seed anywhere. It keeps its balance. So it's much more dainty looking, more formal looking than a sage ever dreamed of being.
And just has a very licoricey smell to it. I love licorice, so I love the smell of it, but the critters don't like the smell of it, so they stay away from it.
Maybe if you hang licorice over your plants, animals like to stay away.
Well, there you go. You have to try.
I'll spread the rumor. I'll create the blog tonight. No, not even.
So one of the other plants that we have in is the hypericum or St. John's wort. So I love St. John's wort in that this one's sangria. Lots of sangria stuff anymore. So the blooms are yellow, real bright yellow with little stamens that stick out of it. But the fun thing about this plant is when the bloom is gone, it puts on a berry, pretty much a berry. And the berries are bright red.
Oh, yeah.
So this one, it's very bright red. So you're getting, and those berries stay on there until frost. I mean, basically once the plant goes, I think even after it loses its leaves, it has the berries on there. So just a real pretty, there's usually, I think we have 2 or 3 different ones out there. I don't think it's used as frequently, but it's a really cool.
This is one of those, it's got a narrower zone. So it's made for us. I don't think it's as popular because other parts of the country can't grow it as easily, but we can. And it loves the sun, the wind, it loves everything we have. So St. John's wort, I don't know why they call it that, or hyssop. I don't know why they call it that.
It's hypericum.
Oh, hypericum. Even worse.
Hyssop is agastache.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Anyway.
Now that we've confused everybody.
Yeah. So, but you'll notice it's got that dark foliage and the flowers almost glow on top of the foliage. Loves the sun, the wind, the heat. It's easy to grow. Perennial, comes back for years. Hummingbirds and butterflies like this one I noticed. So it's got both.
All right.
Is that standing about just shy of knee high or so?
Yeah. It'll get 3 by 3-ish.
Yeah.
Kind of like a potentilla.
Yeah. Good companion plants with potentillas. Oh, we're out of time just like that.
Yes, we are.
Lisa, my goodness. All right, Ken and Lisa Lain, the Mountain Gardeners. Be back.
Wondering why the grass is always greener on the other side? Well, it's probably because your neighbor used the all-purpose fertilizer from Waters Garden Center. Monsoon is right around the corner, and it's the perfect time to feed your plants. Waters All-Purpose Fertilizer is the only organic made especially for Arizona mountain soils. Don't buy a bunch of different fertilizer for your flowers, veggies, trees, or grass. This one does it all. The plants on your side will be happier, healthier, well, greener. Safe, natural, organic. Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
You're listening to garden expert Ken Lain, owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Look for more tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts through Ken's website. Additional shows of this podcast, read his weekly garden column, or follow him on Facebook, Instagram at WattersGardenCenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Welcome to the Top 10 Garden Show with Ken Lain. Listen to Ken's tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts guaranteed to make your gardens more beautiful than ever this year. Now welcome your host, Ken Lain.
So if you are having a lot of new plants, even stressed plants, actually any plant in the yard, you should be fertilizing. Take advantage of the growing season that's ahead of us. So this is the start of the monsoon planting season. And so if you fertilize plants now, you're going to take advantage of that rain, the humidity, the growth now through the monsoons last through mid-September or so. So you got at least 2 months, maybe more, of good, strong growing season. This is when you can double down on your flower count on roses. You can bring out the crepe myrtles, those flowers, just intense fluorescent colors. The rose of Sharon, or that hardy hibiscus that grows here. Huge flowers, hundreds of them. You get those. A lot of plants will rebloom. So carpet, sages, you've got gaillardias, echinacеas, all these big, showy, just summer plants. Deadhead those, fertilize them, they will take off with new growth. You'll get more plants. If you got privacy screens, fertilize now. They will grow more for you, especially if they're new. They'll grow a lot more for you, so they'll fill in faster. And so you just need to fertilize. Now, here's the thing. We are mainly dealing with dead soils here. When you planted, you didn't see a worm. You didn't see any living thing in the soil. That's a problem. That's a serious problem. This is something you folks in the Midwest or areas that have big, thick topsoil layers, you just don't even comprehend or understand. Well, here in the mountains where we've got millimeters of soil and we scraped it off to build your house, there's nothing left except rock, caliche, clay, miserable stuff. Plants struggle. And so you need to rebuild those soil beds, those either raised beds, containers, or you'll actually dig a bigger hole and put a lot of organic matter to attract, to woo in the mycorrhizal colonies, to bring in the worms, to activate that soil around that new tree or shrub. And so this is plants. This is where you need to do that. It's a little bit difficult. It's more difficult to garden here. You need to be more exact. And you're correcting for more than just the plant's health or stressing out the plant. You're correcting the soil so the soil will receive that plant. It'll grow better. If you don't do any of that, you just chuck it in the ground, it'll actually just sit there and look at you. It won't grow. It just sits there and looks at you. And so this is something that's a concern. If you are fertilizing the way you did back in other areas where they had topsoil, you'll burn off. You created all this life in your garden. The plant is growing. You've got apples coming on. You've got plums and peaches and cherries and things are growing well. And then you throw a synthetic fertilizer on there. This is petroleum-based chemicals. This is they're turf builders, these big, strong 2100s, fertilize. I'd say Miracle Grow. You're going to do damage to the soil. You're going to kill off or repel those worms, the beneficial things in your soil. You'll push them away or kill them outright. You can sterilize your soil. The plant will grow fast, but there's a symbiotic thing that happens with the soil and the organisms in the soil. Your soil should be alive. You may not see it, but it is alive. And if plants see an alive soil, they kind of go, oh, this is happening. I think I'll just grow out here. In fact, there's some mycorrhizal things where the fungi in the soil actually attach themselves to the roots of the plants. They help each other grow better. And so if you're putting chemicals out there, it's not healthy for you, and it's really not healthy for those organisms living in that soil. It's because we've got these, they call them microclimates around your yard, there's different climates, different zones where things will grow. Well, your soils are the same way. You've got different type of zones down in there. So you want to treat those with care. So I'm a strong believer in organic fertilizers. All naturals make a difference. So the natural fertilizers, these are meals, typically like cottonseed meal and bird guano and feather meal and bone meal and blood meal, all these meals. These are organics. So as they break down, they actually encourage plant growth, and they double down on the things living in the soil. They encourage the organisms living in your soil. They don't harm them, they benefit to them. So they're feeding off of that too. And as they feed off that, say those worms eat that bone meal or cottonseed meal, then they release it as instantaneous food for that plant. It's like a quadruple benefit, like everything wins. And so use organic fertilizers. That being said, you folks on wells, really be careful. I'm going to put that, you've got a straw on the ground and you're pulling the water out of the ground. You have the ability to poison yourself. So you don't want chemicals on your gardens to leach down and get into your water table, especially if you got a real shallow water table. So I've got a property, the water table's at 64 feet. I mean, it's got a hand dug well on the property. Yeah, we punch it deeper, but you can see the hand, it's rock lined. It's just, wow, that's pretty cool. And you see the water right down in there. That you could poison yourself. So be careful. Don't use synthetic fertilizers. The reason is they release so quick. So you put a Scott's turf builder, the water comes in, afternoon rain, releases all of that food all at once. It says it's got a 30-day release, but it can actually, if you get enough rain. I've had over 2 inches of rain in my yard this week. It can release all of it at once. In fact, a lot of it will flush and go right downstream in those dry beds as it starts to run. And so a lot of it's lost. That's why they've got to compensate by making a lot higher ratios, 21% nitrogen. It's 20% phosphorus. They got to put more because it's so liquefied. It liquefies so easily. An organic breaks down much slower over a very long period of time. So the typical organic will release consistently over a 3-month period. Whereas an organic, the most really, unless you encapsulate it in silicones or do some weird funky science stuff to it, releases within 30 days, if not sooner. Water solubles like Miracle-Gro release now, like in days, and then it's gone. The next time you water, it's like flushes through. And so you really do want to use an organic, granulized organic fertilizer. So this is kind of my thing. I'm on my soapbox. I also like the science of organics. Organics are complicated. So I'm trying to simplify this for my gardeners that garden in my zone, this central highlands area of Arizona. They come in and I sell truckloads of organic fertilizer. The original was a 744 all-purpose plant food. It's cottonseed meal, bird guano, some iron, sulfur, and it's all granulized so that when you spread it, it goes right to the rock. You don't have to work it in. The rains and your irrigation will slowly break it down over the next 3 months. This is really important for plants that are new. They like a consistent, easy, just consistent fertilized food, plant food. I also make an organic fruit tree food, vegetable food. It's 6447, 7% calcium, because I know you're going to struggle. As we go into this rain, we're going to struggle with calcium deficiencies. You'll see some blossom and drought. I'm trying to compensate for that because it's such a common thing here. So I'm making fertilizers for our gardens and to solve issues that happen here, to make plants healthier for here. And none of them are going to burn off your worms. Here's a thing that gets confusing for you new gardeners. Yeah, but Ken, I put some fertilizer out there. I put coffee grounds out. Coffee grounds are not a fertilizer. It might be an organic material, but there's no nutritional value. In fact, we've done some science with this at the university level. All coffee grounds do is they lower the pH a little bit, and that is it, and only for a moment. There's no real nutrients of feeding, fertilizing that plant. Maybe the worms could get a buzz off of it, but there's no plant food in it. If you're just using manures, yeah, but I've got goats and I spread goat nuggets everywhere. Well, that's good. Manures are high in salt. You kind of want to pre-compost them before you spread them out in the yard, the salt is not good for roots or for worms or for anything else in the soil. You want to leach that out over here. And then after you've got all leached out, then you go spread it around. Manures are mainly nitrogen. So that's green growth. So nitrogen's leaf. That's why lawn foods are generally all nitrogen with the 0, 0. 21 0 0 is a lawn food. Well, you want more than nitrogen, especially now. If you want roots, you want some of that middle number. That's phosphorus. So nitrogen, phosphorus is for roots and fruits. If you want bigger tomatoes, give it that middle number. The last number, potash or nitrogen, phosphorus, potash, that's for disease resistance. The thickness of the leaf, the stem's sturdiness. So nitrogen, phosphorus, you want a balanced fertilizer here, not just nitrogen or manure. You want to kind of balance that thing out. So there's a place for both. So anyway, I can go deep into fertilizer. The main point now here is fertilize now. Take advantage of the rain. You can't do it enough. Don't use synthetics. Use organics. Come get my 744 all-purpose food. If you just don't know what to do, it will make a difference. You'll get better, healthier plants. Be back with more information right after this.
Wondering why the grass is always greener on the other side? Well, it's probably because your neighbor used the all-purpose fertilizer from Waters Garden Center. Monsoon is right around the corner, and it's the perfect time to feed your plants. Waters all-purpose fertilizer is the only organic made especially for Arizona mountain soils. Don't buy a bunch of different fertilizer for your flowers, veggies, trees, or grass. This one does it all. The plants on your side will be happier, healthier, well, greener. Safe, natural, organic. Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
You're listening to garden expert Ken Lain. He can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Thanks for tuning in to the Top 10 Garden Show.
I have a very big shout out to Kevin Michaels. He's a staff member. He's a garden extraordinaire. He just knows plants. He's a retired guy that moved here to Prescott, but he's basically a Texas farmer. Years and years of agriculture, just rich experiences with plants. He's the guy in the know. And he works for me just because he doesn't have to, because he wants to. He wants to talk gardening with folks. And so last week, Lisa and I had to get out of here for a bit. We went up to Lake Powell on a bit of a vacation, just decompress. And Kevin taught the class for us. Kevin, I appreciate that. You guys are awesome. So the team I've got, I get all the credit. Ken and Lisa, they own the garden center. No, if you own a garden center and you're running it well, if you're more than just a technician, I've got a good pasta recipe. You got to know the business piece, the hiring piece, the training folks, the accounting, the insurance. It's so complex running a company. So it's easy to become a slave to your company. That's what people don't realize. I want to own my own business. Are you sure? It's great as long as you can scale up. You can have people help take the pressure off. So I've built a team, just a tremendous team. Mackenzie, the family, we've all joined in. Lisa and I, there's 3 family members that run this place. Mackenzie, my daughter, my wife, and I, Lisa and Ken. If you're not careful, you'll cover every spot, every position, there's no backup or coverage for each other. The secret is to have a bench depth. If you're thinking sports teams, then come off the bench and keep the game going at full speed, almost refresh the frontline team and just make them even better. So they come back refreshed. And so that's what the team did. You guys were awesome. Thank you. The plants look fantastic, healthy, just thriving. Customer count was actually increased. You had one of the best Sundays I've seen last week. It was well done. And you taught the class. I was watching it live stream. So we live stream the classes on our Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube channels. And so I live stream going, let's see if they got the hardware connected. It's not easy to live stream things. Man, they were spot on, right on there. So Kevin Michaels, thanks for teaching it. For the rest of the team, for keeping it going for a week while we were away. I feel refreshed and feel good. And we'll do the same for you all. And that's the great thing about teams. You go out for a bit, I'll come back, and we just cover for each other. Gosh, I love a great team and what they can do. I think the customers feed off of that. Classes. Every Saturday at 9:30, we teach a class through summer. So last week, Kevin taught the best fruit trees. It's just how to get more harvest. I couldn't think of anyone better to teach that class. He was spot on. This week, this is the 29th, we've got gardening for newcomers. It will be packed. Come early. Don't just show up at 9:30. It'll be no standing room only. So it's kind of the technicals, when to start, when to stop, when's a frost, how to fertilize, what's a pH, just all the wind, how to work with the environment, not against it. That's we'll go in deep with all of those details. Next, we'll take a break for the 4th of July. The next one in July is July 13th, healing sick plants. By then, we'll start to see mildews and bugs. We just want to help you get it right and be organic if at all possible. Living walls, privacy screens are July 20th. Privacy is a big deal. How do I screen up for that new hot tub? And then the top 10 trees for fresh fruit in your yard, July 27th. And it keeps going on and on. So we've got a lot in store for you. Take advantage of the free classes. You can hang out with really cool people called gardeners, and we all learn together. Throughout the week, Lisa and I camp out here at Watters Garden Center, and we love talking to fans of the show.